welcome to my show.
Hi, Alan. Good to be here.
I invited you over today to share my studio and my garden with you. And I have a lot of respect for your knowledge in the art world.
Thank you.
And I've really enjoyed the conversations that you hosted.
Yeah.
And I think they've been really wonderful and stimulating, and I've met different other artists through that. And
yeah, that's part of the purpose.
I thought it was just really great, and I try to participate as much as I can. I'm not very eloquent, but I try to throw my perspective in. Mm-hmm. And so, as I was saying before, the objective of this is to bring community in and bring arts folks in and talk about their work and my work and art in general and art of the Seattle or Washington State Northwest environment area. And so that's what I'm trying to do.
Very good. Does this piece have a name?
It does. Osmunda.
The character in no, that's Ozymandias. So what's Osmunda?
It's actually this is part of a Carnival series, and so it's a name of a carnival, and I believe it's in Austria.
Really?
I made this series a little bit ago, so it's not on the tip of my tongue, but I named each painting after a carnival.
You love Carnival?
I do love Carnival.
So have you seen the article in Harper's?
No.
I'll send it to you. It's I assume, I've been able to access it, other people have been able to access it. If you're not over Harper's limit, I assume you're not a subscriber, you can probably see it. It's an article by a guy who loves Carnival, and it's his experience, kind of late COVID, traveling with a small, long time, decades old Carnival group through the South, and he works with them, and he profiles some of the people. The ringmaster worked his way up, and then bought the thing, and just sort of learned how to be a carny guy, how to be a sword swallower, how to do memory tricks, and that's their life, and it's pretty amazing. The article just feels so good. Yeah, it's. Have you ever worked in a carnival?
I have not.
Yeah. It's. I never have worked either, but I've been involved with so many weird little ragtag circuses over time. Union Circus Contraption.
Yes.
I volunteered with them and knew a lot of them. Cirque du Flambe. Did you ever know those guys? Fire Circus?
Yeah, I think they were part of the Burning Man group.
Yeah. Well, they performed here, and then when they performed down in Burning Man, they did a lot of pyro, and that's when I worked. And then I volunteered with them up here, and then on the playa, we did this amazing performances. Their last performance had every act they'd ever done, so it was way too long, and some of them got screwed up because there were so many production problems. But producing on the playa, you know what that's like. But what you would do would be, you know how people spin staff and poi with fire on the ends. Well, rather than having fire on the ends, they had fireworks. They had Roman candles in bundles. So you're out there spinning a staff with sparks going everywhere, and there are 10 of you. And it's just crazy.
Wow.
So that's sort of a wonderful part of you feel like, oh, this is circus, even though it's not those people living in trailers traveling through Oklahoma. There's a bunch of small. Working with the Moisture Festival. Have you gone?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I've worked stage crew and now stage manager for them for years.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a fun gig because you're kind of, again, It's that sense of Carnival, it's that sense of crazy tasks like, oh hell, we have to clean all the banana pieces that the performers just spit out, and they're all over the stage, you know. So you get out there and you do it, and so there's that element. It's that element of crazy work that is so cool about Carnival.
Yes.
And for you?
I think it's just a magical celebration of color and light and you know, charisma and personality and playfulness, and
right.
You know, it really excites the imagination and kind of pokes you a little bit, and
yeah.
You know, it's so flirty and fun, and I really enjoy that, and I thought that richness was, I'd like to have my artwork kind of embody.
Right. Well, that sense of, one of the things this article talks about is the author knows what the performer did to get this particular act in place, but the woman standing next to the guy in the big top is, or on the midway, she's just some woman off the street, and she's like, how did they do that? That is amazing. And there's something so wonderful about that. One of the most memorable acts in this year's Moisture Festival was people from the Rose City Circus out of Portland, and it was a circus strongman, and I think he called her his flyer. She was a small woman, and a lot of times those people are couples. These guys weren't. He found her. She was doing circus somewhere in like Montana, and he puts out a call for a new partner, and she knows who he is, so she takes it. But there's this gig where they move around, and she does some aerial, and then he brings out a pole. He brings out two poles. One pole he perches on her shoulder, and she climbs it. But the other one is a pole with an apparatus, like a bunch of little things sticking out of it, little levels and bars. And it's I'd say about at least 10 feet high. Yeah. It has a little base on it, and he puts the thing on the top of his head, vertical. And then she climbs up on him. He climbs up on the pole. So she's performing on the pole. He's holding it, and she's roped in because this one is incredibly dangerous. But she's doing really great aerial up on this apparatus on top of his head. Wow! And there's this moment when she does the spread eagle thing that people do, where she's kind of, she's like this, and she's not holding on. She's on like a bar. And he lets go. So the thing is balanced on top of his head, and she's on top of it, spread eagled, and he puts his arms out too. And it's like, oh, fuck, this is amazing. Nice. And I mean, those people must have worked really hard to get that act together. Yeah, you're right. So there's a sense. So is this your sense? Is this your feeling of Carnival?
Yeah, I think so. The dimension and the color and the dynamic nature of how it seems like in a carnival there's things coming in, and they don't let you down. They keep it rolling, and it's a real magnetic energy.
Yes, no, it's true. I think I've done about 3 or 4 conversations over the years about circus. Not about carnivals so much, because there's a difference, but there are so many overlaps. And I did one at Vermilion. I did one back in, I forget, maybe it was lower level, and had people from Teatro Zanzani, had Terry Crane, who runs an acrobatic conundrum in various shows, in various events, This one guy, I think he was an Israeli gymnast. I can't remember. I think he was with Teatro Zanzani, and we were talking about Ariel and clowns, and his point was that clowns are supposed to be a kind of a counter to all of the aerial and trapeze, because that's so ethereal and it's so up there, and you needed something to bring it down to earth. But the other thing about clowns that's so weird is somebody pointed this out to me, and it may be apocryphal, but that clowns are drunks. White skin, red nose. Anyway, so that was the root. That was the game. They were like these kind of crazy drunks at the outset.
Kind of holding down the earth or connecting the audience with that kind of mischievous,
right? Exactly.
Kind of playful energy.
Yeah, they were rascals.
While these beautiful acrobats are doing this amazing physical sense of play.
Yeah, it's but no. The reason I asked about Bob Jones is, I mean, one of the motifs that Bob went through for decades was grids, and so many of his paintings are grids that then maybe go away, but you still see the sense of the grid. And so there was always this sense of how you work with the grid, how you depart from it, and how it informs the piece. The other thing about this is that it's interesting. It feels like all those little cells should be images in a way. Some of them are, but so with the surface, what role does the surface? I know when you were with the epoxy sculptures, the surface was very much a part of that. Here, what role does that surface play for you in this piece?
Well, I feel like there's planes. I build from the ground up and have this kind of working or chaos or the interaction of materials, and then the layers sort of accumulate and they start playing upon each other, building out to the surface.
Right.
And I do enjoy paintings. I've done a lot of paintings which they have a lot of texture or low relief.
Sure.
That have something you can really grab onto. And this is part of the Gem Box series. I did trees and pure abstract ones and slightly figurative ones, and kind of pushed it in all these dimensions. And this was sort of these curved grids and almost fabric-like patterned accumulation of the interaction of the base layers to the top layers.
Yeah, well, it's funny. My first reaction was that I didn't see many layers, but as I look more closely, most of the squares in the grid do have a sense of layering to them. Some don't so much, like that one, for example.
Right.
But all the ones around it. So it seems like a juxtaposition between panels that seem very flat, and there are others that seem of more depth.
Yes.
How many of these have you painted?
Well, this is a series of 10. I usually do, it seems like 10 is a good number to explore a theme or an idea. So I've done, and usually, that fills out the gallery space so that I can, and each one is very different and can explore different aspects of that compositional difference. But yeah, I usually do about 10.
You're fortunate. I mean, that's a good practice for survival in a way, because there's so many artists out there who never get gallery shows, and one of the reasons is that I did 3 of those, and that's all I wanted to do, and I did 2 of those, and then I could put in this other one. Is that a show? And I mean, you talk to dealers, and those 3 could go in a group show, but if you want to do your own appearance, it's usually a body of work.
Yes.
It is unified in some way.
Yeah.
And if you can't do it, and there's nothing wrong with not being able to do
Right.
it. It's just how some people work.
Right.
They're going to have a heck of a time getting into producing a full gallery show.
Yeah, and I've always, thought that, or at least from our era, that was a primary mechanism for a commercial gallery.
Yeah.
That you would have enough work.
Right. Exactly.
To fill a space.
Exactly.
But I also appreciate artists that do one-offs.
Right.
Sometimes there's a closure with one piece, and that's enough. And so I don't feel it's derogatory to whether someone, because some artists will do one painting over and over and over again,
Right.
hundreds of times.
Exactly.
And some people just do one and then have something completely different.
Right, and I mean, from what I understand, that's really hard for a dealer to deal with, because you've got 10 pieces, they're completely different, or you've got 8 pieces or 6 pieces, and I don't know if I can sell all these pieces, because I like 2 and 3, but 5 and 6 are really,
That's right. I don't want to be, forced in any direction. And I do like to, explore different avenues and explore, something that's very different, whether it's a painting or a sculpture or something that is maybe figurative or abstract or non-rep or pattern or completely chaotic or have structure. So I like to do enough to where I'm not pigeonholed.
Right.
But I think, when a gallery commits, their space for that month.
Right.
And I think for me personally, I want to honor that commitment.
Yeah.
and try to really fill it out. And with a series, a body of work, you can explore,
Right.
different sides of one idea.
Yeah, and it is interesting to go to a show where the artist has put together several bodies of work, maybe 3 or 4 here, 3 or 4 there, and there is often a sense that you don't know what you're dealing with. I mean, it's anyway. It's sometimes it's great, but I do think that I've been wondering about what's happening with the world of galleries, and is the world shifting now? How old are galleries? How old would you say that the gallery model is?
Oh, I'd say it's hundreds of years old, really. I mean, the French model of the salon style, the floor to ceiling.
But I'm talking about some guy or a couple people running a shop in a city and doing nothing in that shop but selling art. How old is that phenomenon?
Well, I'm not an art historian.
I mean, I'm not either.
But I would say in Europe that it's had a pretty long history.
But in the United States?
In the United States, I would say, obviously I think it was, the 50s were the height of the gallery model.
Right, it does seem that way.
And if you if Alfred Stieglitz was, in the 20s and brought a lot of modern work to America, we might talk about that. But
didn't that kind of work? I guess there were photo galleries. I don't know. I've been curious about this because I know there were. Your work got seen in large shows for a long time, armory show, that kind of thing.
Right.
And then a lot of times your work would be seen. The artist or a buyer would come around, maybe with someone who knew what they wanted, to your studio. I don't know. I'm curious. In Seattle, there weren't very many art galleries. I think. Zoe Dezan in the 50s had a gallery at her house, and I know there were a few that started afterwards. Francine. But it seemed like it took off here, maybe in the 70s and 80s. And then here that it was that 80s, 90s, maybe early aughts. And then a bunch of galleries closed. And there still are major galleries, but it seemed like it shifted at one point. I've been wondering where that world was going to go. But I wanted to ask you about your work, the sense of moving from tactile and plastic to conceptual and electronic. Playing with all this gear, doing work. What is your? I could see working in a documentary frame, working in a in the frame of what we're doing right now. Conversation. How do you see this playing into your art?
Well, I guess I'm interested in communicating my ideas. Usually I'm sort of living through my painting. Mm-hmm. And you put a painting on a wall, and an individual might get to talk to you at the opening, or might say, "Oh, I saw your painting," and they would talk. You were using a lot of, dark colors. What was that about? Or, But I guess this exercise is about communicating to a larger audience,
right,
at once,
right,
and telling my story.
Yeah.
But that's not all of it. After art school, I did go to a film school and enjoyed. I've always enjoyed film and kind of raised on the bosom of television, right, and movies, and I think that part of that magic of having Monty Python, or some of the Lathe of Heaven, or some of the more obscure television that we were exposed to, right, in the 70s or something, really inspired me to try to make film, or try to make short films. And I made a few short films and had a couple in the local film festival circuit, mm-hmm, and tried to explore that. But I come from a painter's perspective. I think the film world is militaristic and hierarchical, in a sense that, right, you have your role, and the technology's really opened up. Yes. Where people have their own computer, they have their own camera, and
sure,
and now it's further with the iPhone, or anybody can do a little piece. So I think it's about trying to tell my story and my words, trying to introduce myself to the audience and say that I'm part of the artwork. Sometimes they want to separate you from right, the artwork, and it's the artwork, and then there's the artist. And I think, someone like, Andy Warhol kind of busted that open and became the art himself.
Right.
Right. He had the artwork, but then, he was part of the art. And I think that while, I'm not a pop artist or, I do like it. To some degree, I like the separation that I'm not the art. Mm-hmm. And, I want my art to be more fantastical than I am. I'm just like a regular guy, really. Right. But I want to, again, I want to communicate my perspective.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, it's something I'm going to say just slipped out, but I will talk about how for me it's, I've been doing all the conversations I've done for years. It's kind of impossible to do them now because getting a bunch of people in a bar to hang out for a couple of hours is, a lot of people don't want to do that. And so I've thought about, I was actually burning out when COVID hit on doing conversations because I've been doing them since the 90s. And it's, when you produce for yourself, you run the whole thing and you don't make any money off it. It's an interesting thing after a while. There have been so many conversations where I thought I had the people and then one dropped out, or I had one person and I had the theme and nothing was happening, and then suddenly at the last minute I ran into somebody at a party and, oh, can you do it? And you can, oh, that's great, oh, this is perfect. But after a while, that's exhausting.
Yes.
So I've been thinking about doing interviews. I've been thinking about talking to people who are not necessarily in the art world, but people who are engaged in ideas. There's a lot of people from Seattle who've been engaged with the pandemic. We have a lot of medical research people here who also do a lot of different things. So I've thought about that. I just don't know. I don't think for me to record the things, we could do audio. That's not that hard. But to actually do video, to do good video and have it come out as a really sharp product requires what we have here: a lot of cameras, good lights, good sound. And if you do it half-assed, it feels that way. So we'll see. It might be it could be do audio outside. I don't know. I would like to do something like that though, because I realize that I'm pretty good at asking questions.
Yes, you are.
And so we'll see.
Well, I'm grateful that you did that work. And, if the time has passed, it's even more important that you did that in that time. And it almost, COVID is capped. You don't know something is there until it's ended.
Yeah, no, it's true. I was scheduled, I was going to hit Diana at Vermilion to see what we would be doing, because I'd put her off for a couple of months. I'd done some stuff, I'd run some stuff through the fall of 2019, and then I had a couple of ideas for 2020, but I was kind of taking a break, and then suddenly, well, I'm taking a break for a long time. But at the same time, I was in talks with the Sorrento Hotel to do some stuff.
A fireside chat.
Yeah. A bunch of people had done that over time. I know Michael Hebb did years ago. I know Greg Lundgren had, and we were going great guns, and we were putting out a lot of good ideas. And then I remember the last meeting we had. It was that. It's almost like the light was different. That sense of trying to figure out what I'm talking about, because it's like the light wasn't different that day, but there was something different that day. All around you, everybody's wondering, what's going on? What are we doing? And yet you're still planning things. You're still figuring out things that are going to happen. and then they don't happen. I mean, that series never happened. And I was supposed to do another event on Vashon, and that didn't happen. I was supposed, so it's like, and so you do pull back. It's been an interesting time, that's for sure. Do you, but we could, for me, I could tell you about one of the projects I've been working on. I've been writing a novel, a science fiction novel.
Great.
It's actually done. I just have to, I'm gonna fuss with it. I just have to hustle it, which is a hard part. But it's a noir mystery set on Mars.
Nice.
Yes, it is. It feels nice. And the idea is to make it as scientifically accurate or not rigid, but what's the word I'm looking for? I don't remember. Demanding as possible.
Sure.
But the thing is that this is not a Mars that has been converted into, terraformed into a living space. It's still vast deserts of carbon dioxide. And so everybody lives underground. And I mean, I've seen, there are a bunch of movies have tried to do that, and there's lots of novels. But for me, it's creating kind of a noir city underground.
Nice.
And then populating it with all kinds of interesting characters and stories.
I bet that'll be good. You have a good way of telling stories
thank you.
and articulating ideas, so I'm sure that'll be wonderful. I look forward to seeing it. So what about visual art? Do you what is your participation from that standpoint?
I go through phases where I'll draw for a while, and then I won't. But that's about it. But that's all about all the work I've done. I never had patience for it.
But I mean, in terms of art administration or
learning.
curation or critique or what.
I mean, I've had kind of a half-assed experience in those worlds because I was never I didn't train to be a curator. I didn't train to be an arts journalist. But I've done all those things, but done them kind of on the edge. Let's see, I've been an arts writer for decades.
Right.
A small town paper, and then for a while I was the arts writer for the Bellevue Journal American, which was the Bellevue paper. It went through various permutations, and Journal American was one of them. I edited Reflex
right.
for a couple years before it died, after 10 years. It died under my watch, but it died because there were lots of reasons why it died. But we tried to do too much in a way, and it was just a time when there just wasn't money for it. But yeah, so I've been engaged, and I've been the conversations have been a lot of things for me. They've been basically street theater, and they've been in some ways group art criticism, where people just get together and talk. And the idea has been to have conversations that are not rigid, that are not a panel discussion, but actually have people talking to each other. And that has, I think, that has worked for me. It's a good format.
It's really a special format because people can interject and they can come up, and you have a kind of a spontaneity quality to it, and people can bring up sides that you might not have thought of, and having those 30, 40, 50 people, all ganging on to it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to bring out the chair and the whip, and some people get real emotional, and you don't call on the me, and you're like, favoring different people. There's a lot of politics going on there.
Sure, yeah.
So it's quite fun. But it might be interesting to, have it more maybe, edited or solidified
Right.
in a way that, the little gems out of that. I would love to have, I'm just learning this process and trying to, kind of get my hands around the ideas and the tech and all the bells and whistles that seem to be, overwhelming. But it would be cool to have, people, I know folks are having live shows and we could be talking and someone could call in, the phone would ring and they could call in, oh, well, this person is saying, John, what's going on,
In COVID, that's happening a lot. But one of the problems with doing that in the format we were working in was, especially in Vermilion, was it is possible to mic up a bar, but it's not easy, and it involves having someone with the technical skills to put mics around and do sound checks and make sure that the whole room, is audible, and then if you're going to videotape it again, is it video record? How do you video record in a dark bar? It's you can do it, but it's going to look like a dark bar. It's not going to be good visuals. So I've thought about doing audio, but again, that would mean finding someone to run it, and they'd have to be there for each one of my events. And then how do I pay them? I mean, I have to get some funding for it. And it's just after a while you say, There have been two discussions that I was part of that were kind of part of my series, but not, that were recorded. One was a group of old radicals and young radicals at it was at the First Canoe Social Club above Theater off Jackson, and the guest was Mark Rudd, who was one of the Brother Underground, and that was a fascinating one. It was recorded. I've never heard the recording, and then the other one that was recorded was a discussion around circus at the Moisture Festival, and again, I never heard the recording for that either. It was just. And so I've got no idea how these things sound. But yeah, so for me, my life I've tried to figure out what to call myself. I mean, I guess maybe a writer-producer.
Yeah, I was wondering what your title would be.
Yeah, because I do produce the conversations. I produced 92. I produced another art, science, and technology events.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what I would be, a writer producer. Mm-hmm. But I'm not a curator. I mean, I think all of us have at some point curated a show. Mm-hmm. But to be a curator requires a lot of focus on some specific things.
Yes, it does.
When we produced 92, which, if anyone doesn't know, it was an art, science, and technology festival that we ran in 2016. It was the 50th anniversary of 9 Evenings Theater and Engineering, which was a large performance art event driven by the high technology at the time, produced by Robert Rauschenberg and a Bell Labs engineer named Billy Kluver. Anyway, so in 2016, there were events all over the world. We had one of the biggest, and we ran for 9 days and nights. But how we curated the thing, first there was going to be a curatorial committee, but holding that together was hard. So finally, in the end, it was a matter of talking to people who were interested in bringing stuff in and saying, all right, bring something in. We'll talk about it. We're going to buy a couple people. If it seems to fly, we'll go with it. And then we'll see, does it need funding? How much? Does that fit into our budget? And then, so the original selection was done not by a committee and not by me, but by individual people deciding what they want. But then there was the whole process of what also happens when you run shows, where you have to build a show and you have to build the event. And so I got Sarah Cabbage in, and she was amazing. And Oliver Little, who does really good production. And it came together without a core curated. So that was good. Ellen Siegler came in and produced her own little mini show within the festival, and she just came by and said, "Can I do this?" And I said, "Yeah, do it." And that was good because she had some really good artists in that show who weren't part of the model that we were working with.
Yeah, I'm trying to, eliminate as many extraneous factors, because there's just too many. Sometimes it just seems like there's too much to kind of control or tie down. So this is more of a minimalist production in terms of just one-on-one, talking about general art ideas and a painting, and because there's just so many things you can do with it, and the sound and the video and all the different aspects of it. I'm just trying to get my feet wet with making this happen.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, a painting is you and the painting in a studio.
Right.
And you're working with a very specific set of tools. By yourself, at an easel or on a wall. Whereas producing video requires a whole different tech set and a whole different mindset in a way. And if you don't want to just be making the videos, if you're going to try to do what we're doing now, it involves a lot of hustling and producing, basically. So you're not producing a painting, you're painting a painting, but you're producing video.
Well, John, I really appreciate you coming by and spending a little bit of your quality time here in the Flight Path studio.
Yeah. Well, how do you deal with that? Have you soundproofed it, or?
Well, as you hear a little bit, we have some planes that seem to be coming by a lot.
Although I haven't heard as much in here as outside.
I've tried to insulate and tried to a little bit, but I have a large door there that some of that sound comes through. And if I was a little bit better at mastering audio, I might be able to filter that out. But I'm kind of giving up because the rumble is part of the music.
There you go. Punctuation. Music
is part of the ambience.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Right, and that's we have the human voice, and then we have the planes, and that's why I call my studio the Flight Path Studio.
Yeah, right. It's a good name
because we're in the Flight Path, and it was a little bit cheaper than in the Emerald City down the way, and I could have a space that hopefully I can make my dreams turn into reality.
This is an amazing space. I mean, to have next to your house is just incredible. I know everybody wants a lot of people would like to have a studio for whatever they do in their house, in their basement, and in the backyard. But having a studio this big is, do you know what this garage was built for?
I think originally there was a huge RV parked in it, and when I first got here, it was just studs and roof and concrete, and I've added this tool room and a pouring room behind this room, and a little mezzanine floor where I have supplies, and then the attic has storage, and so I feel like it's a place to make art. And I was so immersed in my last little tiny house that you saw. I did a lot of work in there, and I got my career going in there. But I was literally swimming in the fumes and the dust and tripping over paintings and sculptures and you know, digging out the basement and I had, you know, Regina Hackett crawling in the attic and you know, I mean it was really fun, you know, to make art in that space, but I don't think I could have. It wasn't sustainable.
I know.
I wanted to have something cleaner and more organized, and so this was my dream to make it happen.
It's beautiful. There was the whole line about how abstract expressionism never would have happened without New York, without cheap, easy New York lofts, because you needed that kind of space to produce that kind of work. And if it hadn't existed, I mean, the work probably would have existed, but it would have been a lot harder.
Yeah, well, abstract work was, of course, you know, came out through, you know, Russian constructivism and Weimar. But yeah, I think what you're saying is the scale and the, you know, when Pollock was standing on those paintings, you know, he was in the, you know, Hamptons or something, but in a big barn.
Right, exactly.
You know, and he was able to spread out, or a giant Basquiat spread out on the wall, and that, you know, the space has a huge impact on, you know, what kind of work you do.
If you don't have the space, then you produce some really nice tabletop pieces. It's just, unless you work outside, I suppose. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. Thanks for your hard work in the art community. I really appreciate it.
And best wishes on the video and the projects. So, and keep painting.
Thanks, John.